This is where I went to high school. This is a library where I never took notes. Around that corner, English classes, history classes, where I never take notes. Right here is a building where I took 4 years of French and hardly any notes. And this is me today, 25 years later, and I love taking notes. In fact, I even got notes here to let me know what I'm supposed to remember to say in this video. Anyway, so like I said, I didn't take hardly any notes in high school. I hated it. Thought it was stupid. I was a pretty quick learner, and I didn't think I needed to take notes. And even in college, both times, the first time I went to college, and then I dropped out for 15 years. I went back. I still don't take notes. I still have 2 semesters left, and I've hardly taken any notes in college. Finally, December, I have my bachelor's degree. Excited about that. And when I came back to college, I remember one of my first classes was a Ease Yourself Back into College class, where they talked about how to take these elaborate notes. You divide the paper in half and into columns and rows, and you write one thing down, and then let it go back later, and you write something else after. And it's way too complicated for me. And so I've never used that system except for that 2 weeks where I had to pretend that I liked using it. So what transformed me to a not note taker to a note taker? Well, one thing was this book here. It's a book by Charles Duhigg called Smarter, Faster, Better. And one of the chapters is called Absorbing Data. And it tells a story about a school district in Cincinnati with elementary school kids. Their teachers had this electronic dashboard where they could go and look at all the students. They could see which students were their attendance levels, their participation levels in class, their test, their grades, how well they were doing. It had all this data available to them. And they did this so that they could see which kids were falling behind, and even though they had all this data available to them, it didn't really improve things for them that much. So in a few of the schools in the school district, especially the lower performing ones, they tried something different. They called it the Elementary Initiative, and each school had to have a data center. And sometimes that was just a converted closet or another room that they weren't using anymore, where teachers were required to go and take handwritten notes about their students. They could be writing down the test scores on little cards of paper. They could be talking about an experiment they wanted to do and then write the results of that, how the kids reacted to certain teaching methods or whatever. And looking and having to handwrite, instead of just looking at the dashboard where the information was super easily readable to them, it had that enough cognitive dissonance. It made it harder to absorb it, but then it stuck, and they understood what they were writing with statistics better, and actually helped them to improve. And I took that. I read that. I decided to try something like that with my business. So I'm a freelance web developer, and I read that I needed to take notes every day in one of the business classes I took. And I didn't know that I wanted to take, and when I was reading this book by Charles Duhigg, so I decided, I got me a notebook. This is my second one. I've already filled up the first one. And every single work day, I write down how much money I've made so far for the month, and I write down how close I am to my daily goal, where I'm supposed to be at this point in the month, if I'm ahead or if I'm behind, and by how much. And then I write down how many dollars I need to make every single day for the rest of the month to reach my monthly goal. And even though all of that stuff, I've created some software that helps me see that already. That's where I'm actually getting the numbers from, charts and tables and graphs, and that I can actually see and look up. It helps me to actually write it down instead of just looking it up, or really ingrains and helps me to be a little bit more motivated. So anyway, this is a language learning channel, right? Not a business channel or a personal improvement channel. So let's talk about language learning. Still, I really didn't transform that taking note thing to language learning until a few months ago. And I bought a book. I was working on Esperanto at the time, and I bought La Hobbito. It's The Hobbit. by J.R.R. Tolkien, written in Esperanto, and it was hard. Still is hard. I'm only about halfway through, and first page, I counted 25 words that I didn't understand. Like, oh man, this is going to be tough. So I first open the book, I'm reading the first chapter, first page, and I'm looking up every single word I don't understand, and I don't recommend doing that because that got tedious, like after the first paragraph. I had like 8 words in the first paragraph I didn't know. And so I decided to just get a notebook, and I would just write down the words I don't know. Didn't look them up, I just wrote them down. And then after I got done with the first page, then I went back and I had 25 words, and I went to, got on my phone and looked up every single word in batch processing of looking up the words. And then I decided, okay, I'm gonna take this one step further, and I typed them into to a flashcard app I have, Tiny Cards, on my phone. And my intention was to use Tiny Cards to memorize all these words, but I found I didn't really have to, because just writing them once in my notebook, looking them up, and then typing them into Tiny Cards, I memorized most of them just doing that. I didn't really have to go back to learn them, and so I can now understand every word on the first page of The Hobbit in Esperanto. But I don't always do that. I think most of the time I'm reading, I still just try to find things, figure out stuff through context, and that usually works, and I can understand the story good enough because I've read it twice in English and watched the movies twice. The movies are a little different, but I know the story, I understand what's going on. But every once in a while I'll still do that. I'll I got my notebook here. Well, I got like page 193 of The Hobbit and wrote down a whole bunch of words I didn't know, and so I can read that word. I understand. It's funny, I know words that I don't think I'd ever need to use, like different types of birds that I'll probably never need to use in a conversation in Esperanto. But it's fun understanding. So I started using that for other things when I was doing language learning. For example, in Duolingo, most of the time, I think most people, and me included, when you're going through Duolingo, you're just powering through the exercises. I decided when I got a question wrong or a sentence wrong that I would just write down the sentence. And I don't do that most of the time. I just do it occasionally because sometimes it gets tedious to do that. But when I do that, I learn faster and better, and I understand and retain more of what I forget. That didn't make sense. I retain stuff so I don't forget. Anyway, so hopefully this video inspired you to start taking notes so you'd be cool like me, because any one of my friends will tell you the secret to happiness in life is being cool like Kent. And being humble too, like me. Everyone knows I'm humble because I pretty much tell everyone. So that's my video. Please like it. Please, please, please. Share it. Subscribe to my channel too. That'd be awesome. And come back later in the week. I'll have another video. See you then.